Can you provide a brief overview of NSRCEL mission, what you guys do?
What inspired you guys to start a non-profit? We always want to be entrepreneur first. There are 1,017 incubators in the country today. This number changes every week. You Google it.
Is Pune underrated in the startup scene? That's what inspired you to, kind of take this sector or this job.
So for those who don't know, NSRCEL, it stands for NS Raghavan, Mr. Nadathur S. Raghavan, who is one of the co-founders at Infosys. And CEL stands for Center for Entrepreneurial Learning. We are an incubator based out of Indian Institute of Management Bangalore. Core goal will be to making access to incubation services more democratic. We've worked with around 6,500 startups till date.
Hello guys, hi. Welcome to our new episode of the podcast. So today it's actually special because we are shooting it in NSRCEL IIM Bangalore, and we have very special two guests in our podcast. They're going to share their experience working with startups, their experience working in the sector, and a lot more interesting info. So before I dive deeper into why we are particularly shooting it here with them, we'll take a round of introductions from them, very short and brief. So
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Chitwan. I lead the Tech-Enabled Social Enterprises program at NSRCEL. Before this, I've largely worked in the impact space, grant making, government consulting, on-ground implementation, and the works. So, yeah. Good.
Cool. Thanks guys for having us over, and it really feels special for talking to you guys. I'm Nachiket Kulkarni. I head the social entrepreneurship incubation programs here. We call it Impact Orbit. What Chitwan and team do is one integral part of what different programs we offer under the social entrepreneurship incubation verticals. We also have something in circular economy and climate smart agriculture, catering to social entrepreneurship. Before this, I was a startup founder for 3-4 years. I was with somebody else's startup, managing it for 3-4 years, with an impact investor for a year or two, and then corporate US.
Got it.
Yeah.
So the whole idea of why we wanted to do it with NSRCEL was primarily because when we started off around it's been almost 2 years now. It's been 2 years since we started working on Opengrad, and as we had no prior entrepreneurial experience to talk of at that scale or anything like that, and then specifically we wanted to build something in the social impact space. Now that was something very new for us, even though we had backgrounds in MBA and things like that. There's still a lot of new things. We had no clarity on where to go, what to do first, things like that. So we were very fortunate enough to have been incubated at the impact orbit at NSRCEL at our very early days. And that kind of changed a lot in our journey. We were able to skip a lot of hurdles that we potentially would have had if we did not, was part of the impact orbit. And I think there's a lot that NSRCEL does and can support other entrepreneurs that are not, very aware. Like, people are not very aware of the kind of opportunities that are there here. And I think credit is due in terms of what you've done for the sector and what you guys keep doing for entrepreneurs across sectors. I know that you guys do social impact and for-profit ventures as well. So that's the whole idea why we wanted to speak to you guys and, bring you guys your opinions, your perspectives on the sector, how entrepreneurs behave, what is the kind of founder mindset that drives growth, and things like that. So, Nachi, can you provide a brief overview of NSRCEL mission, what you guys do, and maybe the key pilot programs, very briefly?
Before that, I always had a question for you guys.
Okay.
Right? I am indoor MBA and social impact. You mentioned these lines, right? What inspired you guys to start a non-profit? And how was it in the family? How was it among friends when you said, "Hey, I've actually done MBA from IIM Indore, but now I want to start a non-profit"?
Yeah, and she's like, "No flip."
Yeah.
She's like, yeah. So we get asked this a lot for obvious reasons, but I think for me particularly, it was because I come from a very normal government school in Kerala. I did my education, all that. None of my peers did higher education from any good colleges. I was the only one, things like that. But then that opened a lot of avenues for me. The simple way of how I thought about things and what I wanted to do in life. It was like at a different level, and this was solely because in my family I had mentors, not mentors, like people who supported things like, yeah, you should do big things, like my brother or one of my cousins or things like that. So because I was fortunate enough with these kind of people around me, I was able to be like, oh, there's an entrance that gets me into IIM, I can go do that and all that stuff. But when I went into college, I realized that this is not the case for everybody out there. A lot of people come from privileges. You can clearly see I was the only one from a government school in my batch, in my IPM batch. So there was a lot of stark differences like that and things like that. And I've been associated with the education industry for a while. So I run a small coaching institute back home. It's been running since 2018. It's a small venture and things like that, me and my friend. So, and it's also not, it's a more of a community driven thing. It's in a small coastal town. So I've seen a lot of struggles in terms of how people in Kerala, especially, how people are very motivated to get educated, get into higher levels of education. But like there's always this.
Which part of Kerala are you?
I'm from Talasheri.
Yeah.
So it's northern Malabar region.
Half an hour from Kannur.
Yeah, half an hour from Kannur. Even though it's still well off, Kerala is very well off compared to other rural or areas in India. So I just saw a lot of inequality in the space. I've seen it always. And then when Sahil came up to me with his idea of like he did the whole peer-to-peer coaching for a while. He
What is his background?
So Sahil actually did engineering from Model. So for everybody who's new, Sahil is my co-founder at Opengrad. So Sahil did his BTech from Model Engineering College, Kerala. And while he was doing that, he was actually the founder of Kerala Rescue.in, which was this huge volunteer-led mission that helped Kerala when we were hit with the massive floods.
2018.
Yeah, 2018 floods. Because I did not know Sahil then, but I knew Kerala Rescue.in.
Okay.
Then, yeah. So fast forward to 2022, we were both in the same MBA batch in IIM Bangalore. I had always been like in a knack of entrepreneurship. I wanted to do something on my own. I always had this. Then I meet Sahil. He was already parallelly mentoring like a whole bunch of 10-15 students for CAT, and he was getting good results. He was able to provide a lot of support system for these students, and so it was kind of clear that there was a lot of things that students in these institutes could give back to aspirants. And this was not happening, particularly just because there was no avenue. And also, it was like a foreign idea for them. The idea that there can be a peer-to-peer learning support system that can help students achieve more, get easier access, all of that. And we were clear we wanted to do it with the help of others. It was not like we wanted to go ahead and build a new Byju's or anything. We were clear that for Sahil, it was working because he was a relatable person for the students when Sahil teaches them. And for us to bring in these students to do it, we were very clear that we have to build it like a community. It can't be a business. We are not building our resources. We are using what they have, and we are telling that now we're going to give you a channel that you can help out more aspirants who might not directly have access to these resources.
Was IIM Indore influential in your decisions?
I think yes, definitely, because I think the social circles that we got there, I think that definitely motivated us to take the leap. Kind of, we were. I think both of us got into corporate jobs after our MBA. For sure, we were both doing corporate jobs, and then when we decided to quit, I think it was possible only because we were very clear that we had this huge support system of friends, family, and all of that. And I think we owe that to IIM Indore as well. And the brand helps. The brand helps
definitely.
a lot. Like we can take the leap of trying out something and then come. If that does not work out, we can always come back because now we're going to fall back into like a more cushioned space. So
we, there is some focus on social also there, right? Like because actually we are talking to IIM Indore and we're onboarding as an organization at least 4 or 5 interns this year from the second year.
Oh yeah, from IPM.
From IPM. In fact, the second year is a social entrepreneurship.
Yeah,
one intern is joining our team next month. So we are excited to see what the breed brings in. And I feel like, I've heard that there are 3-4 from every different team in NSRCEL is
hiring
one
you.
intern. So coming to I think that's a great story. So what I'll probably do is maybe it kind of resonated with what an institution can provide, right? So for those who don't know, NSRCEL, it stands for NS Raghavan, Mr. Nadathur S. Raghavan, who is one of the co-founders at Infosys, and CEL stands for Center for Entrepreneurial Learning. We are an incubator based out of Institute of Management Bangalore. We're lucky to be in this green campus, a few green areas left in Bangalore. And this was established in 1999 when, after the success of Infosys, Mr. NSR came and said, to a prestigious institute like IIM Bangalore, saying, you are a business school, you teach business, but now let's be practical and sort of groom other entrepreneurs or potential entrepreneurs in the country, or at least start off in the city. Nobody knew what startups was. Nobody knew what entrepreneurship was. Some of us were not born, but that wave, that wave of, that wave of entrepreneurship after the economy was liberated for a decade. It was, I think, great that someone like an NSR came and said, okay, this is my first check to set up this center. And that's how it started.
Okay.
Over a period of the last 25 years, NSRCEL has had multiple avatars, if you, I think, for the right word. But, a lot of it changed after the pandemic. So before the pandemic, we were very much a Bangalore serving or a large city serving incubator. Majority of our founders were Bangalore based, maybe Chennai, maybe Kerala, parts of Kerala, maybe Mumbai max. But since a lot of services also were physical, co-working was one of the services offered, physical mentoring was one of the services offered, and things like that, we didn't have our reach beyond the city. But with a lot of other businesses and organizations, pandemic gave that opportunity for us to digitize our services, make our services more hybrid. And essentially the mandate to the board then in post-pandemic was to scale our offerings, but while scaling, keep the fact that our core goal will be to sort of, I would say, making access to incubation services more democratic, right? Which is why now, cut to 21 to 2025, from 2022, at least almost every year, we are impacting around 1,000 ventures a year. We've worked with around 6,500 startups till date, of which, if you look at incubation as a number, every year we are already kind of incubating around, if you're impacting 1,200 ventures, we're incubating at least 25% of them. The rest, which we don't incubate, are part of larger entrepreneurship programs that we drive in partnership with IIM Banglore, like the Goldman Sachs Women Entrepreneurship Program. Just to give you a flavor of the kind of program, because you asked, what we do is one vertical, which is social impact or impact orbit. As I said, we work with tech-enabled social innovations and startups in the circular economy space. The two other larger sort of themes in NSRCEL is women entrepreneurship, where we've been a partner with Goldman Sachs for around 6 or 7 years now, where we, in India, we are the only partner as of now to host this global program called the 10K Women Entrepreneurship Program. In fact, it's probably the only demographic where we don't deal with startups. We deal with SMEs. So the criteria for that program is basically you should have a 30-40 lakh annual revenue, and only then you can apply. So there, the volumes are higher. We work with around 150 to 200 women entrepreneurs per cohort, and there have been some 27 odd cohorts, around 3,000 women entrepreneurs through that program itself. Yeah.
And hybrid.
Yeah, hybrid with one maybe physical boot camp anyway and stuff like that. But it's a 3-month. It's a roll in, roll out. There's a lot of involvement from IIM Banglore and the faculty. There is a MOOCs component to it and things like that, which is very different from the core incubation activities that our programs do. We'll come to that later. Under women entrepreneurship, we also have some program in partnership with Kotak called the Women Startup Program, which is for early stage women entrepreneurs. From idea to revenue, working with a bunch of 150 odd women entrepreneurs per cohort. We've done around 4 or 5, fifth cohort is in progress. Around 100 to 150 per year per cohort. So that's a large program as well in terms of scale. The third vertical has essentially emerging business teams. We call it velocity and emerging businesses. So I think that depends on the flavor of the season. We have to be alert. For instance, 3 years ago, it was fintech. We again are getting into a fintech, fintech incubation, setting up a center of excellence in fintech. But fintech, e-commerce, consumer brands, D2C, for the last 2-3 years, a lot of work in the EV and the sustainability space, mobility space. So maybe in the next 2-3 years will be deep tech, AI, these things. So I think that vertical is, I mean, if you call in social entrepreneurship terms, probably anything non-impact and more commercial.
Yeah.
So we work in these spaces, but our that's, let's say, our product or SKUs in terms of the themes we work with. The stages, except the Goldman Sachs program, most of our other programs deal with early to early revenue stage. Like probably when we met you.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Still figuring out
2 months in.
Yeah.
Something like that,
Still figuring out who the beneficiary is. Still figuring out the product and things like that. A larger vision of NSRCEL is more, I would say that, we always want to be entrepreneur first, where our interventions are more focused on the entrepreneur itself rather than the venture, which is why when you actually walk into NSRCEL, the first board you see is how to bootstrap and not how to be a unicorn, right?
Yeah.
That's a very ingrained culture thanks to IMB or NSRCEL developing that founder first culture over a period of years.
Okay.
And while we do that, as I said, the stage we work with is early stage entrepreneurs. What I mean by this is tomorrow, God forbid, if Opengrad either fails or sells your nonprofit, or you founders decide to exit, we have seen so many founders come back and say, I've taken a year's gap, but I'm now doing my next venture, right? Now that is very important for us. We've seen that pattern. We want to see that in social entrepreneurship, because we've sort of done this only for 7 or 8 years in the impact space, but we've already seen that with other sectors. Either an entrepreneur has sold their company to somebody else, made that wealth, and came back and said, I want to start something else, but while doing so, I want to spend time with other entrepreneurs, right? Or they have failed in the first startup or the second startup and want to come back and say, I want to do it third time, but do it correctly. So I think we try to give life skills of entrepreneurship in layman terms and in early stages. So, and then we have, of course, all the incubation programs that we mentioned are our core services. And I think in the current phase, a lot of work will probably happen in thought leadership, and that will reflect across verticals. So as an incubator itself, we were recently published last year as the largest in the country in terms of the volumes we cater to. So there is that onus from our management, from the institute, and also from the government, that we help in capacity building other smaller incubators, right? We also want to do the same thing in the sectors that we have worked and developed expertise in. Maybe social impact, maybe it is going to be sustainability or mobility and things like that. And we feel like that is probably going to be a lot of work done in the near future.
I think this is a very interesting space to be, because you're dealing with people, you're dealing with organizations, and internally also, I think maybe like right now you guys are beyond that stage, but NSRCEL itself seems like a startup at like maybe like some years ago. Yeah, definitely. And I'm sure you guys went through that journey and you guys pass it on to entrepreneurs. What inspired you to kind of take this sector or this job?
I think for me, at some point, I've been in the impact space for like almost a decade now. God, I feel old. But so at some point I realized that it's been great working on the ground. It's been great working with government at scale. But what I really enjoyed was being an enabler, and just happened to come across NSRCEL at that opportune moment. And I think what was interesting was NSRCEL, or at least the opportunity that I was looking for, applied 3 of my most, I would say, keen interest areas. Dhanda, business. I come from a business family. Technology. I've studied engineering, and impact. Right. So this was like a perfect opportunity for me, and I've had the chance to work with some amazing entrepreneurs like yourselves in the past 2-3 years. So yeah, that's what it's
3 keywords: Danda, impact, and tech.
Yes.
For you?
I think fairly similar, but the inspiration is to work with people like you, right? Or to identify people like you and take you to the next level. That's the core inspiration for some of us. But I think would have been very different if, like, I had my own startup journey. If I had found NSRCEL during that journey, my startup journey would have been very different, right? So I think I sort of met NSRCEL at the very right time that way, because I felt like, the word, she used the correct word, enabler, right? So if you've been a founder before, and whether you've gone big or gone bankrupt, doing it from the other side, where you can enable others, one, to probably do the right things, but more importantly, not to do the wrong things. Right? Yeah. So and of course, being in the nodal, let's say, agency to also mobilize that capital to the right people, I think that gives a lot of inspiration on a day-to-day basis for us to be in a place like this. And also, it's not only entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are at the core of it, but we work with service providers, we work with corporates, we work with academia, we work with a lot of other things that go behind delivering delivering a success story for an entrepreneur. And we'll cover the details.
I think we're all like a perpetual entrepreneur in residence.
Very core generalist roles as well, I think.
It's so much ground to like experiment with. You wanna like do a podcast. You wanna experiment with working with a separate theme, do that. Get the service provider you think that will help the startups, anything.
Actually, this is one of the things we keep talking about, is not everybody should be and can be an entrepreneur. There is this whole set of enabling ecosystem which is intrapreneurial and entrepreneurial enough for people who don't want to start up to get exposed to. We have a lot of fresh members joining our team, for whom this being the first job, I think is a great ideal job for getting a macroeconomic view, right? So, entrepreneurship need not be in everybody's DNA, but the enabling ecosystem is inspiring enough to, then eventually take a call.
Makes sense. I think one thing that they've missed out is the office space and the campus that you guys get to work in. I think definitely it's a perk. It's lush, it's green, it's airy, it's so much sunlight.
It's good. It's good, but then to be honest, for delivering a program to like you, which is at such a large scale, we don't get too much time to enjoy the campus. I don't think I've used the swimming pool or the badminton court more than once in the last 4 years, right? But that's also my problem. Yeah.
No, but you're right. So initially, when I had joined,
I think it's also because you guys are comparing it. I think if you guys had to go to like a tech park and do another job, I think you would miss this so much.
Of course.
There's definitely no comparison. Yes, tech park and all that, I've done that 10 years ago, but I don't think I even want to go close to it.
But
I think we've just started taking it thoda sa for granted or just gotten used to it.
So also feel young. You must feel young being inside the college like that. I always feel like that.
I always feel young.
Yeah. That's a great perk. I think also another thing that you missed while you talked about the whole overall work that NSRCEL does is, I think people often mistake that it's only for IIM Bangalore students or alumni, but for everybody watching, I think we're not from IIM Bangalore. We were part of the Impact Orbit Cohort 3, and all of their programs, in fact, all of them are open for everybody.
Yeah, so I think less than 2% or 1% of our entrepreneur pool is from IIM Bangalore. I think that misconception is always there. We definitely have a campus founders program, which is again tuned towards founders in tier 2, tier 3 colleges and tier 2, tier 3 towns who want to innovate and who need a base. But from IIMB, social impact, though, we've not had anyone. We've had one or two who are like from Center for Public Policy, who've done masters and all. And also it's a testimony to what happens, right? Like when you are actually, there are very few eccentric personalities like you who will say, I want to do an impact venture after an MBA. You still went to corporate first, right?
Yeah, I did.
Right? So I think one is ambition of someone in IMB is after an MBA is obviously work for a corporate. One, that's the ambition. Second, you have a lot of loans to repay as well at that point.
Yeah.
But we've had some founders who have come back after 4 or 5 years after corporate. They may have been from IMB. There are one or two like that.
Okay.
But the larger goal is not to serve really like there may be a pool eventually coming in, but a lot of, in fact, being in the campus, I think we are the only entity that works a lot outside the campus, right? A lot of other centers and the faculty, like a lot of their work is in the campus. NSRCEL is one place where a lot of other people from the campus want to come because they know that our work is outside.
Yeah.
And like we actually have one of the metrics for us to measure the success of the program is the diversity that we can get.
Correct.
Right? If we're getting, so we've also observed that we're getting more and more applications from smaller towns, rural, even from rural areas.
Yeah.
And that's one of our, like, that's how we like to measure success.
Yeah, I think that's also a function of COVID digital penetration in
Yes,
India,
that we
founders
talked about,
moving back to, people like you who want to move back to your own hometowns and know that with the digital penetration you can still deliver what you want to. Like in our social entrepreneurship in impact orbit itself, we used to again have Bangalore based founders, but now we have majority not from Bangalore. We do have pockets of like Pune, Mumbai being popular.
In and around Pune, Mumbai, not so much in, but around Pune.
But a majority now in the impact cohorts are actually working in rural, remote areas.
Any cities like Bangalore, what is like the core cities that you get most applicants from?
Cities, I would not say, but
Yeah.
Karnataka would be one.
Okay.
It's also because we've had a presence here for the longest time. Maharashtra, surprisingly, we get a lot of applications and not from the city. So we have applications from like Satara, from Ahmednagar,
Latur.
people working in Solapur, Latur.
Yeah.
So it's very surprising. Somehow, whenever we have a get-together or a mixer in Pune and Bombay, we see a lot of alums, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But besides that, it's very spread out.
Yeah. And that's social entrepreneurship. It's good to see because actual work is going to happen in a remote area or in a conflict zone or in a climate-prone zone, wherever it may be. And it's good to see. But I think this applies for our other programs and non-impact as well. Like the WSP program works with 12 other partners, like IIM Vizag, IIM Sirpur, some institutes in the Northeast where a lot of our applications come in, a lot of our entrepreneurs come in. But it's good to see that evolution while we grew in the social impact space to actually get a lot of entrepreneurs from, like we have 2 ventures from Kargil. We have one from Majuli Island in Arunachal Pradesh, which is
the
river. One from
river
Manipur.
island.
Yeah, we have one from Manipur. We have from Bastar, Chhattisgarh, the tribal belt. We recently had someone from Rajasthan. Especially in the circular economy, Pune again is a hotbed. Pune seems to be a hotbed, a combination of non-profits, education, livelihoods, and outside
is Pune underrated in the startup scene?
I think so.
Yeah, we feel like it might be.
I think so. There's a lot of focus on Bangalore, Mumbai, Delhi, but Pune is underrated. Pune also needs enabling ecosystem, which is which is sort of missing, I feel, beyond a point. But a lot of sustainability, circularity sort of startups are coming from Pune. And Pune and Gujarat belt as actually too. We've had those representations for our circularity cohort. Again, if you go EV sustainability outside of our program, there's again a lot of concentration on Delhi. Yeah, but I think social impact, we are proud to say that we have been able to source hey, we didn't have anyone from Kerala before you guys joined. Now every cohort we have at least one from Kerala.
I think we have 2 from Kerala.
Yeah. Now every cohort after
something
your cohort.
To be proud of.
Yeah. After you we've done 2-3 more cohorts in the Capgemini Tech Enabled program. We have at least 1 or 2 ventures from Kerala every time. So I think
the broader startup ecosystem is there in Kerala. I think there's a lot of support in Kochi and things like that. But I think it's still fragmented. I think there's a lot people miss out on, especially. I think that it's still growing. There's no active trend that you go ahead and do.
See, which is why I think this. So we conceptualized this incubators initiative with SBI Foundation, and we kicked off this year, where the goal is to train other incubators, 8 of them in 3 years. And we will want to pick people, smaller colleges or smaller incubators who want to do this and capacity build them. And we were actually one of the examples. We got 80 odd applications in that program, right? Obviously, only one came and said they want to set a social entrepreneurship incubator, but everyone is coming with their own specializations. And since you mentioned Kerala, like we were talking to IIT Palakkad. IIT Palakkad has done some amazing work for the last 8. I mean, they've been around only for 10
very,
years.
very new, very fresh.
Yeah, but they've set up something very focused on energy and safety.
Okay.
They've done around 64 patents and 30 startups, sourcing from different parts of Kerala and Tamil Nadu. So they've set their expertise. Why they need NSRCEL is the larger, bigger business offerings, networks, connects.
Yeah, right now I think more deep tech.
So we are known to be a business capacity building incubator.
Got it.
One, obviously we are in Bangalore. Two, we are in IIM Banglore. So even for our impact cohorts, it's a very, very core offering. Like maybe you should talk about that more as to, maybe if maybe you guys had MBA, but people who didn't have that background, they benefit from this. And a lot of deep tech incubators or other incubators in smaller towns, we've had in this program, we've had applications from Jammu as well, like incubators from Jammu who have built their base and their specialization. But 25 years of learnings of setting processes and scaling in the last 3-4 years from 600 startups to 6,000.
Yeah.
That
gives you an edge into understanding where to look for, what to identify first.
Process, fundraising, setting up teams, setting up sectors of expertise, things like that. Because eventually, if you look at it, the government has helped in creating this movement, but it has to sustain. There are 1,017 incubators in the country today. 1017. This number changes every week you Google it, right? And Atal Innovation Mission, the government, and corporate CSR plays a huge role in this. But now, will this sustain for 20 more years is a challenge, and that's why the government wants leading incubators like us to
build capacity. I think there was this one part where you talked about how you guys support and what we received. So I think I can touch upon how it was for us, because we were part of another incubator, Nudge, also in our early stages itself. I think one area where NSRCEL very clearly helped us was, I think, go-to market. I think even though we're a social, we don't see ourselves as a social sector org also. We also very clearly see us as a startup. We're like, there is a problem, we have a product, we want to solve it. The only difference I see is that there's no equity involved in it, or the direct beneficiaries are not paying for it. Someone else paying for them.
So it's a business model.
Yeah. End of the day, it's just, we see it very clearly in our heads. It's like we're building another startup. That's how we see it. So for us, I think go-to-market was one area where we got a lot of clarity from NSRCEL. I think we one of our mentors as well, and during our sessions as well. I think because when we came in, we wanted to do a lot of things. It was obviously we were very early. We wanted to do all the courses. We wanted to go all the geographies. We did not know how to split it accordingly. So the very first time we actually had clarity on how to build separate projects was when we talked to Archana Pillai from NSRCEL, and she gave this very clear inputs on how we should split it based on how we distribute it. Like one is partner led, one is our own cohorts where we source the students, and another channel is where students actively come and openly do it. Like there's no intervention from our side, and this has changed. This is one of the core things that has remained unchanged from that day, and there's been a huge change, because before that was all over the place. So I think even coming from IIMs or coming from the background, I think it's very hard to see it when you're in it. When you're doing it, it's really hard to be like, oh yeah, this is the theory, this is how we should be doing. No, nothing comes to it.
I'm very glad you brought this up, because one of the discussions we've been having is, so we work with both non-profits and for-profit organizations, like in one cohort, right? So in a batch of 25, let's say, we'd have a split of almost 50-50 for-profit and not-for-profit organizations. What it has allowed us to do is introduce them to concepts, like even non-profits to concepts like these. And we've been encouraging them to think of this as a core skill rather than thinking of like GTM as something only a commercial business or a business should do, right? So this has proven to be I won't say challenging, but there's a certain resistance in the non-profits. You work with non-profits enough.
We have worked with other non-profits as well. We have spoken to other social sector.
So profit is not the bad guy. So it's good to inculcate these concepts into your business models, whether irrespective of whether it's a for-profit or not-for-profit.
As an extension, do you guys want to like clearly touch upon what is the exact support you guys give? So, for example, for us, it was a lot of we had a lot of mentorship support. We got into connects with like very marquee people in the industry from social sector, like Mohan Sundaram. He was like actively involved with us. He supported us after the incubation as well, so that was great. And then we got access to a lot. So yeah, you
Sure. So, I mean, in layman terms, we call it NSRCEL stack. Right?
Okay.
I think Ganesh, who's our CEO, and the team is working on, trademarking this into something called ECKANA, ECKANA.
Okay.
And I'll probably send you some details later about it. But essentially, what it stands for is how we do it is the core layer is, let's say, a set of modules, which is closer to an academic set of modules that these are the capacity building sessions that every entrepreneur in the portfolio will go through. Something like what you went through around 8 or 9 months, right?
Okay.
You'll have your theory of change, you'll have unit economics, you'll have GTM, you'll have how to build an org, digital marketing, fundraising, pitch decks, all this, like a core thing. Below that, we have complemented with something, again, as you said, mentors. We have around 100 plus mentors across different sectors. We have to keep adding as new sectors come in. Social impact and impact orbit especially has around 25 to 30 specialized mentors in this space. There are people like Archana, people like Rajiv Kuchal, Naga, Sridhar, all big names in the sector who are
very huge name. For anybody who's watching
Yeah.
in, they have not heard. They're all huge people who've done like multiple organizations,
Yeah.
great years of work.
Correct. And then we have something called the startup toolkit, where we have again around 100 plus corporates offering discounted services to our portfolio. So then we have like credit to marketing team and Shloka who leads it, who's built that up from scratch. So we have a Paytm, an AWS, a Canva with a discounted code, right?
Yeah,
like so
we use it.
You
Yeah.
use it, right? Like it took, I think, Shloka more than a year and a half to negotiate Canva's deal for non-profits. We ourselves, being a non-profit, didn't get that deal first, right?
Oh.
But then when we say we come with these volumes, I feel a lot of the Zohos and AWSs of the world understand that. So that's a whole startup toolkit has vendors and corporates across SaaS, across courier services, across legal, CA, whatever you want, things that entrepreneurs need, right? So we spoke about mentors, we spoke about the interventions, we spoke about the startup toolkit. The fourth and probably one of the most important again are service providers from the industry, right? Let's say some entrepreneur wants to work on their pitch deck, right? Now, fine, the program team has expertise in it, but we are not industry practitioners in it, right? Or our bandwidth also is limited to starting to actually do that. So then Chitwan's team and the entire team works on bringing 3 or 4 service providers. Our goal is to not to tell you pick this one over other. Our goal is to capacity build an entrepreneur and upskill an entrepreneur, saying how will you decide which vendor to onboard for digital marketing, right? So our job is to capacity build and train that entrepreneurs as to how to make the decision on choosing one agency over another, things like that. So so service providers is one huge stack. I think I'll give the theory setup. Maybe she can give some examples, right? The framework is what I'm talking about. And the last but not the least is the funding ecosystems, right? Now again, and this is my favorite topic personally, but I feel entrepreneurs spend a lot of time, if you're a for-profit, just chasing equity and VC funds. If you're a non-profit, just chasing grants. But there is so much going on in the country in terms of diversified sources of capital, which we have access to, and we have spent time in building it. So if you've we did a demo day last year just before your cohort started, where we brought in revenue-based finances, we brought in other family offices, we brought in, of course, we work with 13 or 14 corporates, but then we brought in other corporate CSRs who would directly want to work with some of our non-profit ventures rather than going through us. And now we're also working on bringing corporates who want to directly work with some startups as, let's say, their vendor or a value chain, a value chain component. So all this put together is one offering that we call the stack or ECHANA now. But while doing so, because our job is to build the ecosystem, we also work with regulatory bodies or membership councils. Like, for example, Impact Orbit last year was part of something called the Impact Investment Council, India Impact Investment Council, IIC, because they have 100 odd impact funds, and for events, for conversations around specific subject matter expertise, it just helps to be in that zone. We also are part of something called the Pollinate Impact Group, which is a bunch of 40 global impact incubators.
Wow.
And we just hosted 35 of them in December for a capacity building workshop. So we had incubators from East Africa, Southeast Asia come down and and sort of exchange notes. So we bring in these industry body memberships as well. And NSRCEL or IMB being NSRCEL or IMB, we also have VIPs coming in every now and then, which people like you have already met. So, I think that whole ecosystem is where it is. I think maybe Chitwan can cover a few examples of how entrepreneurs tap it.
The VIPs, you just have to come in, spend time here and then randomly
keep hanging out here.
Keep hanging out in NSRCEL and you're bound to meet someone who can move to
Yeah, it's incidental actually most of the times. We try to say, hey, this is our best venture, but in a lot of cases, who's available tomorrow?
That's
somebody is coming.
Yeah, similarly, when Honorable President was coming to IMB campus, and I think we just, Shreya from Staraka, she just happened to be here. We needed somebody like yesterday to confirm to meet the president. And we're like, hey, do you want to present to the president? And she's like, which president? President of which organization? She's like, no, the president.
That's huge.
Yeah. So just going back to some of the examples, right? I think thank you to get for getting started on how it can be utilized. But we've been able to. So we've had ventures come to us and say that we don't know how to even begin to think about the impact of our organization, which is okay for an early stage organization, but as you grow, especially in the impact sector, you need to be able to show the impact and you need data. Gone are the days where you're like, I want to do good in the world and people will give you money, right? Gone are those days. So you need evidence, research, backed studies to help you even present your case. So we've been able to support ventures through that. So one of the ventures, Agro Rangers, so Archana mentored them and helped them with, when we talked about mentoring, she helped them design their entire impact metrics through multiple sessions. I've personally sat down with him. He's an amazing founder. We've sat down with him on just how to even use the correct language for pitch deck. Right, very simple things like that. It's been amazing pleasure to work with them on these very small things. We've also had founders mail us say, hey, can you help us with Amazon credits? It's stuck, AWS credits. Otherwise, we'll have to end up paying like some $1,000 and we don't have the money for that. So we've had like multiple such incidents. That is really supported in very small ways, but that goes a long way.
Yeah, definitely.
Actually, even in Sidesh's case for Agro Rangers, he was like down to the last bucket of penny in his ops, in his budget also, right? And March is the season where we get other corporates, as I told you. You want to cover the JBF example?
Yeah, so we also, because we've worked with a large number of organizations, right? So we've done the due diligence with these organizations and we have the good fortune of being trusted by some of the partners we've worked with. So when closer to, let's say in Jan, Feb, March, these are the months, we get a lot of queries to recommend organizations that, hey, I have some funds to disburse in, let's say, climate or in agriculture or in tech, whatever the area they want to support, can you recommend some good organizations? So we recommend, and there's of course like an internal panel, there's a committee which sits and decides who gets the grants, but we've also been able to support entrepreneurs through that. And Agro Rangers was one of the ventures that was selected when they like really needed those funds.
Yeah, he would have probably shut his venture if not, actually, that's what he told me.
Yeah.
But now, a year and a half down the line, he's scaled up. These funds, which were not direct sort of like our function, was actually he was selected among 7 or 8 other commercial ventures. He was the only non-profit who got this money, and then he took off from there. He's won some UN awards.
UN CCD Land Hero Awards, which is given to like 8 people across the world.
Yeah. So, a similar example for a for-profit also from our circular cohort, we had somebody called Sunbird Straws. They're again a Bangalore-based ventures. They make straws out of fallen coconut leaves, and market is basically replacing paper straws, right? They have around 100 odd bars and breweries and restaurants in Bangalore as their clients now.
Wow.
It's a team out of Christ College actually.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
so shout out to them.
Yes. Hardcore impact venture. 5 factories in 5 villages, employing women I think in Palakkad, in Mysore, in Nagarkoil, etc., etc. But the market is premium, right? You're serving a customer in an Uru or a customer in a windmill with this straw. But same thing, they had an import order to Japan last Feb during the JBF pitch. Screening of ventures. We put them through, and they got a 13 lakh grant. They could actually serve that order. So these indirect things, we as a team, we are alert. Our investments team, our partnerships fundraising team gives us these leads, and even today we got an email from ex-corporate saying, hey, I want to give so much money to XYZ category. So our advice to entrepreneurs like you always is, well, be good friends with us. just kidding. But essentially give us your business updates every now and then, because it's in the know-how. We obviously prefer prioritizing the current cohorts because we've already benefited the prior
committed also that you're going to.
Yeah, but every now and then, it's the success factors are with a few ventures, a few proportion of ventures, and every time a venture needs that extra infusion of capital or connection. I remember even Mitty Cafe. They were incubated long ago, but then even when I joined, the first funder was MSDF. Michael Susandale Foundation came and said, hey, from our program, there is an extra capital. We want to give this extra 25 lakhs or to 2 ventures who are working with in the urban livelihood space. We went back to Alina saying, hey, this is a criteria. You satisfy this criteria, do a pitch. There was a screening committee, they got selected. So they got those 25 lakhs of grants again for another. So that shot in the arm is I feel, indirect but direct benefit to the company.
It's like NSRCEL is like a fractional CMO plus CFO plus CEO plus COO plus everything.
I wish, at the scale that we operate, we are not getting our hands dirty from the program team's point of view, but the program team is an enabler for someone else to do that.
Have you thought about going deeper into orgs and doing less scale? Is that something that discussion must have come up? Right?
I think it's a discussion we have pretty much every other day, because as we both said earlier, the reason why we joined the space is because we wanted to work with entrepreneurs like yourself, right? Given that the fact is that we all have like very limited time. There is some time we dedicate to learning about what's happening, right? So that we can provide adequate support. Then there is the organization of the adequate support, and we try to take out time, especially on Fridays, right? We've been trying the Founder Friday. Sometimes it sticks for sometimes it does not. We'd love to meet more entrepreneurs on Friday, past alums, current cohorts, even like potential entrepreneurs who want to apply for the programs here. Very open to meeting them. To answer your question, we'd love to do that, and we try to do that as much as possible.
We have in other niche spaces, we've started out as an accelerator first. Like in circular economy, how we actually got into that space, we did an acceleration program in partnership with Acumen. So we understood the space, we understood what it takes, and then do a long-term incubation, right? Goldman Sachs also, the 2 years we did a subset of a program called FFG, Finance for Growth. Because if you had we did a survey of 3,000 odd women entrepreneurs from the program, and 71% of them came back and said, in terms of finance and confidence on fundraising, like education on finance and confidence on fundraising, we lack the skills. So a separate program was carved out called Finance for Growth. The top 300 were chosen out of whatever number of applicants again, and focused education on fundraising and introduction to different funders was given. So there is definite scope, and I think after the last 3-4 years, our mandate with our management has been to sort of democratize and scale. Now that we've achieved that, and I think we may want to revisit what next 4 or 5 years looks like, and we will want to go deeper. And because while we scale, we also picked 1 or 2 sectors to stick to. Like for impact, tech was one of the main sectors. Circular economy, climate smart agriculture was the other sector. But we will probably have to have a sort of that conversation and introspection. Maybe once we finish these 120
And even
ventures.
like within different programs, I think there is definitely an increase in the past few months, or like the need to do more focused work, to do more, maybe let's say focused mentoring sessions, to do more portfolio calls. And even in the program, even in our program, what we've started doing is that in the first half of the program, 4 months, we focus on group sessions, but in the second half we try to do more one-on-one work.
Yeah, for us also.
Exactly,
it's the same
right?
structure.
So we try to deliver dissemination of knowledge and then the application.
Yeah. Or founders have come back and said, listen, I'm stuck at, if it's a for-profit, I'm stuck at a 50 crore revenue, what to do next? Can you guys help? Right? Or in non-profits case also, we've done, hey, it's been 4-5 years, we have a balance sheet of 10 to 15 crores, I'm stuck here. What do we do? Can NSRCEL offer an acceleration program? But it's not been a priority as of now. Something we'll definitely think of.
These are more ad hoc at the moment.
Got it, yeah.
Because that scale, like training someone for scale, is a whole different ball game than training someone for early stage building. At scale, we'll have to, probably look at.
0 to 1 and
exactly.
It's two different games. Yeah, we were just talking about that. So another thing that I want to touch upon is, so starting up is like now very huge. Everybody knows about it in India. It's like the most trendy thing. Everybody wants to get on and say that like I want to be a content creator or I want to start up. So and another thing that people their go-to when people want to think about like starting up is VCs. People are like, my first step would be that I have an idea, now I go and pitch to a VC and get like a pre-seed round and then go about it. Are you guys a VC? Like, is that how you deal with for-profits? Or if not, then what is the difference? How do you guys see it? I think it's people don't know much about this.
Okay, so majority of our work and our programs are 90% grant pass-through. Okay. What I mean by that is we raise grant funds from corporate CSRs or other sources, including government sources. Our job is to pass on that grant to the venture, be it a non-profit or a for-profit. In certain cases, like certain government funds, we do design instruments like debt for Nidhi Triple and things like that. But then recently, in the last year, we tied up with SIDBI. It's government's LP, if you may. And, SIDBI has a mandate for us to co-invest with them. Okay. And in the last 6 months, we've set up an investments team where we're looking to invest in our own portfolio of companies, but a bit advanced stage, growth stage, like 50 lakhs to a crore of ticket size. We will not be a lead investor. We will be a co-investor. If someone comes and says that, hey, I'm raising around, I'm lacking so much gap, but I have lead investors, then we're evaluating. So we're actually, the investments team is actually evaluating 4-5 ventures across portfolio, across programs to do it. But we wouldn't call ourselves a VC, right? That's not the goal here. The goal here is to, have that, if you wanted to be a VC, we would have probably set up
I think
a venture
this
capital.
Has come up because now you have that source of funds and you have to, form this instrument. Right?
Also, and also this was an opportunity, and I think it's good to have that skin in the game. For an incubator like us, like when we see that opportunity, we would do it. Before pandemic, we did take equity in certain ventures, but it was not capital infused equity. It was more like sweat equity because you use incubation services and you use the co-working space. We did have a few returns there. Some wealth generation has happened, but it's management is now evaluating if we actually want to go that
back
way.
To that.
But at least like experiment with a few investments right away because SIDBI has come on board.
What's the overall thesis when you do these investments? Are you focused on one specific industry right now, or
no? It's across sectors, right?
So because you're not a lead investor, you're more like floating. They're open to hearing out.
I think again, it will take an entrepreneur first approach again. Like if we've referred a few of our alumni now to some of our investments. The same thing is not yet happened on the non-profit side, but definitely on the for-profit side. But it is right now more of an opportunistic vehicle because again, if you have a program team sitting on the investments desk, we will push our own portfolio, right? There's a conflict of interest. I would say call it nepotism more than conflict of interest, right? But the investment team is a separate team. And we cannot influence their decisions. There is a separate investment committee, which has people from the external ecosystem. There is a faculty, there is management of NSRCEL, NSRCEL investments team, but there are one or two VCs from outside, or our board also has a representation there.
Our work kind of ends with recommending and helping the startups prepare for the pitch.
Okay. Do you have any foreign organizations or any other organizations in the space that you look up to? Like, say, they've... So,
in terms of incubator benchmark?
Yeah.
You want to answer that?
I wouldn't say benchmark, but there's definitely a lot of learning. We've been talking to a couple of global accelerators like Miller Center, Fast Forward. So we've been in conversation with them. We've also been able to refer some of our startups with them, and they've gone on and they were incubated there. I think it's a good sharing of knowledge that way. So recently we came across this playbook that Fast Forward accelerators had prepared. They exclusively work with tech nonprofits, global tech nonprofits. So they've created a playbook on how all tech nonprofits across the world can use it and use like small steps. They've actually created like step-step guide on how to set up different processes. So, and it's out there for everybody to use, right? So I think that this is something I definitely admire, and we'd love to
refer them this year.
Yeah, we should definitely do that. And these are definitely learnings that we've taken from there, and we hope to inculcate in different capacities.
See, I mean, 2017 is when Michael Suzerdale Foundation came to NSRCEL and said, let's start a program for nonprofits. NSRCEL was not confident about it. IMB had one or two faculty experts who were like, fine, I can support, but we have not done it. Other incubators. And
any other incubators in
India? At that point, no. I think Nudge came around at the same time. At that point, no.
Any policy decisions that made that whole shift? Both Nudge and you guys coming?
I think the macroeconomic ecosystem did, right? I see three things that have impacted the social entrepreneurship ecosystem where the government has played a role. One is, I keep repeating this wherever I go, but I think it's important. One is definitely the CSR law. 2014 saying, 2% of profits for whatever more than 500 crores goes into this, where innovation is a component of that philanthropic capital. Innovation being what the work we do as an incubator, right? An innovation or incubator attached to an IIT or an IIM is far more, there further benefits for a corporate to start working with us. That one thing, and hence now it's a 25,000 crore industry, CSR. Right? The second is SIDBI coming in and saying we'll start a social venture fund, right? I think 2013 or something is when they started a social venture fund. While there were other impact funds coming up, there was no confidence on exits and can we actually make money. Someone like a Unitas Capital said that my microfinance portfolio made as much money as a conventional venture capital. So there is money to be made in impact. The third is now what the social stock exchange, which is coming up, where non-profits can list themselves on the public markets, right? I mean, I don't think we want to go deeper in that, but these are macro things. And for NSRCEL or an IIMB, I think to pick up this movement and actually start doing something was very important. One, because we had the capacity to do it, the wherewithal to do it, and second is being a quasi-government entity. If we don't do it, then who will do it? Right? And that's how the journey started.
There was also like a shift in the overall philanthropic, I would say, view. Earlier, where again, what we talked about, that do good and I'll give you money to do good. There has been a clear shift in sustainability. The organizations now, non-profits also think about sustainability. They think about where what kind of projects they want to do, right? It has also started operating somewhat like a very focused direction organization, a startup, right? Earlier, a lot of work was done saying that, I work in the education space and I will implement projects based on the funding that I receive. A lot of organizations have done
funding
that.
First. Funding comes first,
And of course, that would be the case when it is entirely funds dependent, right? That's very natural course of things. Here, a bunch of, I would say, rebels started thinking that, this is what I want to do, and I will go out there and I will fight and I will secure funding for the projects that I want to do, the kind of the areas that I want to focus on. So that also brought about such organizations which were mentorable in that direction, which really supported the entire thing.
Yeah, so like the demand, I think she's talking on the demand side, right? The demand was definitely there, and we started out as a very non-profit serving incubator again, but with pandemic, with digital penetration, with the impact investment movement, we diversified into a for-profit portfolio as well. And we did very small cohorts first in social impact, like 8 ventures per year for the first 2-3 years with partners like uh, MSDF, Ford Foundation, Emphasis Foundation, and then once CSRs like Capgemini started coming on board, then we just scaled it up. And now, in the last 3 years, our team itself would have incubated around 170 or 200 ventures. I mean, 170 odd, but targeting by end of 25 will hit 200 ventures.
Wow.
Of which 40 to 50% are non-profits and other for-profits. So social entrepreneurship here will remain important, and I think forever, and we're business model agnostic that way. So I think that's that. So we feel like we may change sectors of work as we go, as the sector evolves, but it is really important for a benchmark top incubator like NSRCEL and a leading business school like IIM Bangalore to do this. And you will see that reflection also. Like in the business school, nobody was taking the social entrepreneurship course offered by a faculty, Saurabh Mukherjee, 10 years ago. But now that class is full.
Wow.
Right? Okay. So, yeah. I think she can talk about
I have one question though, because you talked about how you guys started it off and how the overall macroeconomy and like general trend in the people that changed. How was the first cohort of founders like?
Yeah.
How different are they from now? Were they all returning founders?
Returning as in?
Returning founders as in they've already done something like in the
no, I think it's very different. Like the first set was very very impact first, very non-profit only, grassroots only kind of
even the
cohort.
sectors were very different.
Even sectors was education, livelihoods, etc. Now we see sustainability, we see fintech, we see assistive tech.
Even in the non-profit space, we're seeing more focus on we're seeing non-profit fintech organizations working in financial education.
More crediting for everybody. And
yes, so it's become more holistic that way.
Age? Do you think you're seeing more younger founders now?
Yeah.
In the social sector space?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are, but I think we're seeing a few older also. Right?
It's a mix. But definitely like a lot younger now. The ones who would not be there, let's say 7-8 years ago. I think that also shows the general shift in trend that a lot younger people are venturing towards entrepreneurship. Cultural shift.
Yeah. I mean, having said that, like we all in the circular economy cohort, we have someone called Indic Initiatives, Sitaraman. He's 55 years old. He's there at every event. He's from Chikmagalur. He's working on removing aluminium and steel components aluminium and plastic components from paper cups, right?
And paper cups?
Yeah, paper cups.
Okay.
That on the trailers we get tea and coffee cups, right? Chota wala. That just goes into trash. That just goes into landfill. There is zinc in it. There is aluminium in it. He's made a machine that removes that, and so you can use that material to do something else later. And
what is the organization called?
Indic Initiatives, and it's in Chikmagalur.
Okay, great.
And we're trying to talk to IMB if we can be the first pilot client as well. And that's something we have an opportunity to. Like we also had this venture called Pad Care in the first circular economy cohort, which is invented a machine for recycling menstrual pads. And they were the first on Shark Tank to get an blank check from Piyush Bansal. So our team spent around a year talking to IMB sustainability team. Now we have at least 5 restrooms or 6 restrooms in IIM Bangalore with pad care machines. So the demographic and the sectors both have changed. Education and livelihood used to be focused. We see a lot in both tech and in sustainability as ventures coming in, and a lot of entrepreneurs are in the 20 to 40 age group.
Okay. Given we've also talked about how you guys are also bringing in a lot of personal interest in terms of business people and things, who are more fun to work with, for profit entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs?
No,
who are more trainable is our second question.
No. I would like to change that question slightly. Sure. More fun to work with. I think just people who are really passionate, right?
Okay.
So can I say Opengrad here?
Yeah, I
Right,
think-
like the kind of
Thanks for the
energy you
plug.
guys.
Shout out to Opengrad.
Shout out to Opengrad. Yeah, but the kind of energy you brought along, and that's because you're so passionate. You're both so passionate about the work you do. Agro Rangers, again, I will take their examples. Even Swata, the organization that I mentioned earlier, they work on financial education for children and women, right? Like nobody's really doing that. So much energy in the kind of every time when they bring, the discussions are dynamic. It's just so much fun to work with them. So I think there's no for-profit, not-for-profit,
Okay.
just like a lot of
It's all
passion.
founder first, not sector.
Exactly, we're founder
Model.
But also, just to add, maybe entrepreneurs who take feedback well, right? Because there is going to be these good debates that we have about what your strategy should be, what your market should be, etc., etc. And in certain cases, because an entrepreneur does not see other entrepreneurs, we see all entrepreneurs in all cohorts, right? So we know who has made what mistakes and what has worked. So we are able to give those inputs. If some people take those inputs, implement in business or in org, be it non-profit or for-profit, we see the direction change, right? And I think that also excites us that, hey, this person is actually trying to work along with us rather than just tapping the brand, tapping the network and trying to grow. I feel those, I don't want to use the word, but people use the word mentorable.
Yeah.
And Ganesh also, our CEO, uses this word this phrase that every good entrepreneur need not be a good incubator.
That's it.
Right? So it's fun to work with good incubators, not necessarily fun to work with good entrepreneurs, but good entrepreneurs may build big empires. That's fine.
We also see ourselves going above and beyond for people who actually come to us and ask us for help, because if they actually come to us and take feedback, we somehow find us going a little extra mile for them, which you'd otherwise do as well, but it's just like human nature.
No, yeah, nepotism is ingrained. And
But it's also a credit to the team to take that extra effort to work. Like I know some people in the team may be talking to entrepreneurs in the evenings and after work hours. I myself spend a few Saturdays working with at least once in Jayanagar or JP Nagar, where I enjoy the physical conversations. Right, I work with this venture called Good Gum a lot of Saturdays. He's based out of Jayanagar. He's India's first plastic-free chewing gum from a circular cohort. All that is fun stuff. But then again, like. No nepotism. It's more like, hey, are you guys willing to work together and change if necessary? Then it's fun.
No, for even from a personal experience, even when we are at any other boot camp or any other, we always attend all these events where there are multiple other smaller non-profits who are there, and this one question that comes up is, do you have people who you can call up at any time when you have like you're in a struggle or you have like a that bottleneck point, and then we're like, we have people, we have people who we can call, and that's a great place to be in that crowd when you can confidently say that we're sorted at that area. That's a great. I think NSRCEL does a great job of that.
I wish. It's more like we are 1-800 for entrepreneurs, right? Archana also gives like Naga, Archana, now they're available all the time, even for us.
Great. So another interesting point that I want your perspective on particularly, we have our peers, a lot of them are work in VCs and venture capital firms and things like that. And an angle that I keep getting is that almost everything can be solved by market-based products. When I say market-based products, it's like for-profits. Say like for-profits can solve almost all the problems. We exist because we exist. Like someone someday decided that I need to not charge for what I'm doing, or I should do this just because I like doing it. And then a lot of us followed it, or things like that. And then there's some discussions that we keep having. Like say everything could be. I have a very key opinion on this as well, which I want to share. But I want to understand how you view it. Do you think for-profits are enough? Do you think, because you closely work with them?
I think if we thought for-profits were enough, we would not be like here advocating and working with non-profits, right? Like begin with that. But there are a lot of key services which unfortunately as of today are not accessible through a for-profit model, right? So even till date, almost 60% of rural healthcare education is delivered through non-profits and governments. Right? It's not delivered through private care. And private or like for-profit ventures will only go to places where there's profit to be made.
Okay.
Right? Of course, they will not be able to go to some village which has 20 households and provide healthcare there. So governments, non-profits have to go and deliver last mile access to basic service, health, education, even in a lot of cases livelihoods, has to be done through non-profits. Again, so there has to be a symbiotic correlation between these two, which is why like one is not more or less. So
Yeah.
I would say both are really essential. We've seen organizations that have partnered, like a non-profit organization partnering with for-profit to provide for that gap that the for-profit organization is not able to fill. So here, I think working in tandem is the best solution.
We are a Section 8 non-profit,
Yes.
NSRCEL.
Okay.
So just to add, I think where the government alone can't do everything and private markets can't alone do everything, you will have non-profits to executing it.
Interesting. My take on this is more like I feel like non-profits make a lot of sense in places where there are no markets. So like in areas where we work with, so you could say that for everybody who's new, we help underserved students access quality higher education by like a mentor-led model. So basically we are a substitute to all your regular coaching institutes like Byju's, An Academy, etc. So our whole idea is that when there is no market for these people to come and do it there, they're not going to come and do it. But then there is still we are going ahead and telling them that you're missing out on a broader market because end of the day they're also part of the overall capitalism or the overall economy that they're in. So they after their education they have to go back and participate in the economy at some point. So my whole angle to this is non-profits exists. Non-profits can do a lot in places that does not have a market.
Got it.
And I think for-profits can come and do when a market has been established at a particular place where there is a constant demand supply that they can serve.
There is something our mentor Naga says. I mean, he's mentioned this in his book also, Back to Bharat. So, if a social entrepreneurship takes up a challenge, especially a non-profit takes up a challenge and works at it for years together, you've solved the problem only when the government actually reaches out to you saying, hey, let's do this large scale. So he
Yeah.
takes this example of Gramium, I think in Trichy, who was building toilets in rural areas forever. And then suddenly government comes and says, it's not sudden, right? After 20 years of that work, government comes and says, let's do Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, no toilets and this and that. Right? Similarly, I think we'll see that across problems being solved. So if a larger player like a government or a corporate notices it and says, I want to do it, then that means the
Yeah,
non-profit
definitely.
has done that work over the years, and then there's a confidence that markets or government can come into play.
No, exactly. I think
Non-profits are the only people trying to work themselves out of a
Yeah.
business, right?
Yeah. I think one thing I forgot who told this to us. I think that every non-profit, if you're very core and passionate about the cause, you should have a depth. That is only when you have made it.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
because
when you know the job is done.
the point where you become irrelevant is when you know that you've done it, because
Yes.
that means that the problem has been solved or someone else has systematically taken it up.
Yeah.
So I
Swachh
think
Bharat is a very good example.
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah. So what unique opportunities does being in the impact cohort particularly give a social entrepreneur like myself, say like 1 year back?
I think this is something we touched upon. We've been touching upon this throughout the conversation. But so we touched upon how we've been able to incubate both non-profits and for-profit together, right? It's had its pros and cons. Pros would be exposing non-profits to think of their organization as a startup, as a venture with very clear like a GTM strategy, with a business model, with a theory of change, with a budget, with a pitch deck. So that has been a pro, and they've learned a lot from each other. We've had peer sharing sessions amongst the founders. A lot of times founders will come and tell us, hey, can you please arrange a session for us, and then somebody else would volunteer that, oh, hey, I know this, I can take this, and we're like, great, please, we'll set up the Zoom for you.
Yeah.
Just do it, and we'll also learn in the process, right? So that's been amazing. We've also, like, the con has been that we've like while we've been able to do a lot of general sessions, group sessions, we realized that I wouldn't say but learning, that we were not able to deliver the very focused sessions. So we decided to do that, take up more of those topics in the second half of the program, which is what we've been doing through like a one-on-one. But as an uninitiated person, as somebody who's not been in the impact sector, who's not been an entrepreneur, even basics, right? Through sessions, we've been able to deliver basics. They'll get basics of how to go about making a pitch deck. Simple things like how to make your elevator pitch, how to think about your strategy, how to talk about your organizations with other people, right? When we start talking, we realize that it's actually so difficult to talk about your work in 2 lines, but like a lot easier in 2 hours. So just that thinking.
30-second pitch.
Now you did it, right? You just said what you do in 2 lines.
Yeah, but I'm sure
took us 2 years to reach there. It was 2 years to reach there.
Right? So I think the biggest opportunity, the biggest learning is to get exposed to a lot of these concepts. Some smarter entrepreneurs or like some people who are very keen on learning, they'll come with a plan. Okay, this is what I need to learn. They'll have clear-cut goals, even though we do charter out goals in the beginning of the program. But I would say the dedicated ones actually follow through, and those are the ones that benefit the most.
Exactly.
I think additional is exposure, just meeting so many people.
True.
And sometimes even following through those connections. There's obviously funding support that we have a grant component of the program. Some selected ventures get up to 15 lakh rupees for developing their product. So bunch of these that we're able to support.
And I think, say from like somebody who's been incubated, I think I'll tell you what my key highlight of NSR. So being a social entrepreneur, like you said, also we did our MBA, all that jazz, and then we are into starting a. There's a lot of questions from around us, inside us also, like what are we doing? And then NSRCEL is an easy place to be, and that makes a huge difference. When I say easy, I'm not saying lazy. Lazy and easy could be like things that you mix up. But when I say easy, I mean like you're not overwhelmed. When you're in the incubation, you're not overwhelmed. It takes you through like a slow, gradual thing. Even the mentor allocations, the first call that comes after a particular number of sessions you've gone through, I think it helps you, build it slowly and gradually. I think that helps a lot. At least for us, it was great to, have that slow, like that easy, comfortable place to be in, and not a lot of pressures. Right from day one, you guys are not like, how many students are you doing today? How many students did you do last month? That's not there. I mean, the rigor is great for growth. I mean, the rigor has to come. And as founders, I think it's important that you bring it from yourself, and rather than depending on an outside entity like an incubator to bring it. So for me, it was very key that it was easy and comfortable space to be, because otherwise you might feel this is too much. I think
good to know that, because we are trying to deliver this in 8 months. It's difficult to be slow, gradual, but good to know that you felt that.
Yeah, that helps. I'm not sure how much that will help, say, founders who are not maybe like that outgoing. Like for me, fortunately, Sahil is always out there, going out there and things like that, and that has helped us. And so for me, it was like a good balance, and I think that was the key highlight. I think it helped us a lot in particular. And then you guys did not touch upon the IIMB tag. It helps an insane amount. The moment you say that you're incubated at IIM Bangalore, or for us, it's like, where do you work out of? We're like, we work out of NSRCEL IIM Bangalore. That itself is like a huge door opener. So I think those are 2 key things personally for me, and I'm sure Sahil will like.
I think we are the first, in a lot of cases, we are the first institutional supporter in terms of financial support.
Yeah. So it's a comfortable place to be.
So what can somebody get, right? What can an entrepreneur get? I think there's a lot of things, but there's a conversation I think I have with everybody while they're joining NSRCEL, is that you will definitely not get what you don't ask for.
Okay.
So asking is very important. Here, like as a founder, you have to be absolutely shameless. Like a lot of times we may say no because like it's not in our hands, right? But you're definitely not getting what you don't ask for.
Great. So now this is one topic that me and Sahil has been discussing a lot in terms of our funding and our funding requests and things like that. Funding for failure. So basically, how do you approach failure among your startups, both for profits and non-profits? How do you approach, say, people who are ready to take that risk? What is that angle you take there?
Okay. I mean, failure is part of journey, and failure or pivots, we see both happen. And I think we are mobilizing capital to enable that actually. Especially in early stages, you have to try out. You don't know who your target beneficiary or customer is until you try out a few markets, right? So we've had a venture called Connect come in a cohort after yours from Manipur. He was doing around, so he's a fintech play, basically emergency loans, cash loans for emergency cash requirements in diagnosis, healthcare. Okay, so someone goes to a hospital, needs that 15,000, 20,000 rupees to do CT scan, this scan, that scan. He enables a loan for that. And he had
Section 8.
No, he was a for-profit.
Okay.
But he was doing around 2 crores of business, and then the Manipur violence hit, and then his business basically shut. Then he came to us. He said, "Hey, the only thing we asked is, hey, do you see yourself doing it, right? Again, and then considering the political ramifications, do you see that will you be able to do it in other geographies?" And he said yes, and that's what we needed, right? And he was very committed. We gave him the grant. He was growing. Now we learned 3-4 months ago that he has his first clients in Aizawl. He has his first clients in Shillong, first clients in Guwahati, which he didn't have before. So these sort of pivots, call them failures or stops and then pivots. We've really seen that. In fact, we had a program during COVID from Capgemini designed only to support this. Like we had 75 lakhs of grants for 4 for-profit ventures to come out of COVID. And to kind of digitize their business models, build out their tech, went from a completely offline revenue model to a completely online revenue model, right? Both, I mean, one is called D-Learners, which is like a remedial platform for intervention in dyslexic kids. They were offline and they built out a tech, the screening screens between kids between age 2 and age 5 or age 7 and says that, hey, now's the time to come onto a program. So he went from zero, I mean, from again 2 crores to zero to now probably 12 to 15 lakhs a month of revenue. So we want to support entrepreneurs who are willing to understand and test out these markets before they decide what the market is.
How easy is the language getting easier when you talk to your supporters? Like say you talked about Capgemini supporting you in that venture. How easy it is? Is that something you push and pitch to them, or
actually credibility is there, so a lot of partners don't get involved in that decision making. That is left to us, right? Like our business prudence, our interaction with entrepreneurs, we know you guys the best. They trust us, and it's not like an individual like Chitwan or me is deciding. There is a panel. In fact, I think she can go through the process, but there's a process and there is a group of people then giving a score and hence deciding who's going to get the grant, who's not going to get the grant.
There are multiple checks in place. Firstly, the panel, you've been through the process, right? So there's a panel and the panel provides their score. And then there's a score from the anchor mentor feedback. Then there's a score from the program team as a whole. Then there's a score from the portfolio manager. All of this is consolidated against and is like measured against the work that has been done in the measured with the work that has been done over the past like 8-9 months, and once this and all of this is then presented to like different levels of approval within the organization as well.
No, I wanted to touch upon that because I think that's a huge impact you guys are doing right in the industry, because of your brand and the process that you guys have built is why you're able to channel that much capital to support such risk takers or support such failures that you can change the story or pivot into. And I think that's great. I think I'm not sure if you guys recognize the importance of that, but I think for somebody who's out there looking to raise funds, it's always a very hard language when you talk about there's this risk element out of it, especially in the social sector. Like you cannot guarantee that if A happens, B will happen. So I think that's a huge work that you guys. So as we wrap up the podcast, I have like two main questions that. One is obviously as people who are in the industry trying to support growth in, founder first, you guys are always out there trying to support new ideas and people who come up with new ideas. What are key industries or areas that you guys are looking out for in the coming 2 to 3 years?
I think trends show that definitely look, generationally Gen Z and millennials want to do something which is good for the planet, good for the society. So social impact, and 10 years ago when I left corporate and moved to the sector, people were laughing. But I think the time has come where there will be a lot of innovators solving for social impact, which could be the broader theme. Within that, sustainability, circular economy, tech, AI, and with all the movement with OpenAI,
Yeah.
that will sort of blend in. There, I think we see certain innovations in health tech and assistive tech, but which will have a larger route to market, right? Lead time. In sectors other than social impact, again, AI, fintech, anything sustainability, there is a lot of money and capital and movement. All of you must be knowing. And I think India is also picking up on the deep tech trend now. Like we also just kicked off a program in deep tech.
Okay.
But I think like these broader themes is where a lot of industry build is happening.
Do you partner with other educational institutions or corporates in these? Say, when you said deep tech, is that a partnership between?
Yeah, actually, we didn't cover that. So, like as I said, the WSP program works with a lot of other, other educational institutes or incubators, but sustainability or other programs which are more where we don't have labs, right? We are a business school, so we have access to labs in ISC, IIT Madras, and IIT Delhi, where we can send our entrepreneurs to if asked. Like that's what she asked.
Yeah.
If asked.
Yeah.
If you knock, then you get.
Even in assistive tech, we can send someone to like Mohan Sundaram's lab in Pune, right? At Relabs. We have we have access to Social Alpha's lab. If you want, we can make that happen. But it's on paper.
Got it.
Nobody has used it. People use it when they want to. Yeah. But these are the sectors, right? Broadly. Yeah.
Great. And to close off, what are the new upcoming cohorts or programs that are coming up, and aspiring founders, social entrepreneurs, everybody should look out for in NSRCEL?
So we have 2-3 different programs. I will talk about. I will focus on one and also touch upon the others. So our cohort for the non-profits is currently open. Any organization that has been in operation for at least a year, a little less than a year would also be fine. It can apply. This is primarily for tech-based non-profits. What will you get from the program is something we've already covered. So we're sector agnostic. We work with all sorts of thematic areas like education, health, livelihoods. Again, we're not restricted towards or biased towards any sectors, right? So we were open to working with all sectors. So that is open. We also have a sustainability program for the for-profit, which is open as well.
Got it. Yeah. So, any closing?
Just to add, fintech is open as well.
Fintech is open as well.
We just signed a partnership with the government of Karnataka for signing up something called the Center for Fintech. And I think we'll do 5 cohorts in 5 years. So that is open right now. Yeah.
Great. So, bunch of activities lined up, bunch of cohorts coming in. So, a lot of opportunities for aspiring founders and people who are listening to the podcast. Any closing remarks? Anything, guys? I think from me it was great. It was great picking your brains and understanding your idea and where you come from, and the overall. You guys speak to thousands of founders, so I think you guys had a lot of rich insights into how the sector works, and it was great speaking to you guys.
I think it was really refreshing. Is what it was, just because there's just so much flurry of activity at NSRCEL. Our phones are always buzzing, our emails are always buzzing. It's just great to turn off the phone for 2 hours and have a conversation. Actually, be present, listen, have fun conversations, reflect upon so much. So amazing! Thank you so much for having us, Shahid.
It was our pleasure.
Yeah. Closing comment is I think. If anyone is planning to start up, I think now is the time. It's already probably late.
Yeah.
If someone wants that moment in, there is capital, there is local entrepreneurship support system. Like when I said there are 1,000 incubators, which actually there's probably an incubator in every district, right? And there is actually capital sitting there.
Yeah.
Capacity enabled maybe in different pockets. But now is the time to start, and I think for people trying to solve for in sectors that we mentioned, there is enough capital and support coming in. Maybe I would also like to close by saying, I just remembered this when you asked about failed models, right? Failure and all that. There are trends where we see how and when entrepreneurs fail. Like in 100 entrepreneurs we see, maybe 2 become pretty big, become unicorns or become Series A, etc. 80% of them remain really good ventures, and there's nothing wrong with it, right? You're a good venture that is feeding yourself, feeding your employees, feeding your families, and serving your community. Where it fails is one, founder disagreements. We've seen that trend happen. Where it fails is not listening to your customer or beneficiary and trying to do completely something else. Where it also fails is investor relations and donor relations not being managed carefully, or the expectations mismatched. These are the 3, 4 I would say reasons why entrepreneurs fail. While we have seen that trend, I mean, we support failure if there is a scope of resilience and bounce back. Uh, but these are the few reasons we have seen, and I think we are at that advantage to see these trends. But at some point, I don't know when we will be able to put these out there that hey, this is what is the positive trend, and this is what is entrepreneurship is not for everyone, and this is what will happen if you fail. All right. So,
I think.
But yes, thanks for making time and pushing us to do it. And I think otherwise we wouldn't have.
No, it is all our pressure. I think I've been behind Sahil to do this for about a month. I've been like, yeah, let's go and do this.
You should talk to some of our other entrepreneurs also.
I was just thinking that,
We love to do that. We can do that.
We should.
Yeah, we can do that.
Cool.
That'd be great. Yeah. Great, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, guys.